Right, so we have a pretty credible source giving us some confusing tidbits about the base MacBook Pro, so let's delve into it. But first, make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumours, and with that being said, let's just talk in. So the source in question is someone from Weibo. Now this source was actually the first source who told us we would see a notch on the 2021 MacBook Pros, and this did sound pretty crazy at the time, but of course, it did end up being true. We did see a notch on the new MacBooks. And so in a similar way, this report also kinda makes no sense, but considering how credible they've been in the past, there is a fair chance this might be legit. So what exactly do they tell us? Well, the base MacBook Pro with the M2 chip is going to be near identical to the M1 version. And so yeah, that means we're going to see thick bezels, an LCD panel, less ports, and also a touch bar. Literally, the only change is going to be the M2 chip. This is going to offer a higher clock speed than the M1 cores and slightly more GPU cores. But yeah, that's about it for the changes with this base Pro. So those are all the tidbits, guys, and yes, I know this corroborates with other sources, but to be honest, I'm still unsure as to why Apple's making this Mac. You see, this won't really be a Pro machine because it won't have mini LED, it won't have thinner bezels, it won't have more ports. All the benefits of the new MacBook Pros isn't coming to this model, so what's the point of releasing this Mac? And also, like I've said in previous videos, do remember the MacBook Air is going to see a major overhaul with a new design, also mini LED, and so again, this more expensive base MacBook Pro is going to pale in comparison. And yeah, with every other MacBook getting a new design, I don't see why Apple's not giving the same treatment to the base Pro, because it's going to look pretty odd in the lineup. And talking about odds, the touch bar staying on this MacBook also makes no sense because Apple clearly wants people to forget the touch bar ever existed, and so the best thing to do would be to remove it from the complete lineup. But no, instead the base model, the cheaper variant, is going to have the touch bar, but the higher end versions are going to stick to the traditional function row. And yes, I know the touch bar is a con to some, but do note, this at the end of the day was marketed as a feature for the high-end Macs, and so I do think it would be pretty confusing for regular consumers that the base Pro has a touch bar and the higher end models don't. And I know that some could argue that Apple's giving you choices, and those who do prefer a touch bar do get a new Mac, but really Apple never gives us choices. For example, when they killed off 3D Touch, they did not bring it back to some models, it was gone forever, and those who do prefer the tech are kind of forced to live without it. And so I do think it's going to be a similar case with the touch bar on the MacBook. And yeah, to be honest, Apple should just kill off the base MacBook Pro because I do think the M1 and the M2 Air should basically be perfect for most Mac users. Really, the only way this leak could make sense is that, like some of you guys suggested, this base MacBook Pro becomes a base MacBook. So we know the M2 Air is going to see a price hike, and so the $999 price point is going to be vacant, and so Apple can pretty easily fill that with a base MacBook. Now that could happen, but of course, the touch bar still being on a base MacBook is going to be pretty odd, and so as long as Apple removes that and retains the older design, that could make sense, I guess. However, I will say the chances of that happening are pretty low because every source on the planet has been touting this as a base Pro, not a base MacBook. So yeah, those are my thoughts, and while I could dismiss the report, it's coming from a credible source, and so yes, I'm not sure whether to believe this or not, but tell me your thoughts, guys, in the comments below. Anyways, thank you for watching, guys. Make sure to like and subscribe for the latest Apple news and rumours. Check out the video linked above on details regarding the iPhone 14 series, and on that note, I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya, peeps.